Time for round 4 of Grand Prix Nashville 2012.
Alright, Grand Prix competitors. This is the start of round 4. You have 50 minutes. Please begin.
Hello everyone and welcome to Grand Prix Nashville 2012 with me, your host Rich Hagan, and Mr. Ben Swartz, who is here with me to bring you the story of round 4, Patrick Cox against Max Tietze.
Hi guys.
So we're hoping for a little bit more action than we got in our opening salvo in round 3. We didn't see an awful lot there in round 3.
Yeah, it was a really quick match we had between Matt Oldacker and Ben Sek. Ben Sek got a little stuck on mana, had some mana issues, and Matt Oldacker had the Huntmaster of the Fells to sort of make a quick work of Ben Sek. We see both players start off their game, and let's see who's got the first drop. No drop on turn 2 for either of the players. And it looks like Max is sporting a Jund deck, black, red, green, 3 colors.
Kessing Wolf gets the ball rolling for him, and an absolute beating of a card from Grand Prix Lille. Richard Parker took Giraffe's Messenger to victory there.
Surprising that Pat is able to cast it on turn 3. The triple black is really tough and sealed when you want to play 2, maybe 3 colors to be able to get it on turn 3.
Sure.
I was telling Matt Ferrando earlier in the day, he had that in seal deck, and I said to him, you know, the earliest you're probably going to cast is on turn 5. You should just play Black Cat over it. Black Cat might be better than it. You're not going to be able to get any aggressive factor out of it, but sure. Pat here is able to cast it on turn 3. Impressive. And another Kessig Wolf for Max.
So Giraffe's Messenger is going to come in, enter the red zone.
And Markov Patrician is going to be Patrick Cox's follow-up.
I'm disappointed with Markov Patrician. The 3 power with lifelink at a relatively cheap cost feels like it ought to do more than it generally ends up doing. Any number of times, it just never feels like you're getting quite the value that it looks like you should. I can't quite put my finger on it.
I was preparing for PTQs last season for Pro Tour Dark Ascension, and I was talking to Cedric Phillips about sort of strategy, and one of the first things he was able to realize about this format is don't play the drops that only have 1 toughness, because Geist Flame is such an important removal spell. Getting, these very powerful guys like Markov Patrician, pinged off by cards like Geist Flame is something really common, and terrible.
Oh, the Skurzdag Flayer. Now that's a card I can get behind.
Yeah.
Toughness.
Unfortunately for Max, he doesn't have any humans, so being able to activate the Flayer's abilities, he's unable to do that right now.
Nonetheless, it has a sort of great big juicy target on it saying,
yeah,
I'm going to have humans. You better kill me.
It is a human itself, right? So
yeah, worst case, he can do it himself.
Right.
Bit of DIY action.
So Patrick trying to find an optimal attack here. But first,
yeah, it's tricky because Max has mana up, and so
he's going to play
here we go.
Chant of the Skiff-Sang on Max's Kessig Wolf.
Yeah, that seems like a very fine play, because obviously could give it first strike, had the mana up. But giving a -10...
minus 13.
Yeah, but it's a -10, right? It's like,
So now Max has a decision to see if he wants to trade the Flare for the Markov Patrician. And looks like...
Yep. And that seems fine. I always love that kind of flip of the hand, which is the kind of the magic body language of shrug. Like, trade? Huh? Guess, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so maybe Max here is thinking he doesn't have very many humans in his deck. It might be the best value he can get out of the Flare here, is sort of, not take 3 here, keep his life total relatively high, and try to rebuild the board, which he does here.
Yep. Grizzled Outcasts coming up. So Max is a sleeping specialite. Pat Cox took advantage of just coming in at the regular time.
Save $10.
So you can see all the colours of mana available on both sides. Max does have that black splash, so that's what he's got 2 swamps in his deck.
Max's deck has two Galvanic Juggernauts.
Yeah, that's going to make life pretty interesting. Now, Clunky Flyer Land we've entered for Pat.
Vengeful Vampire.
Over there. Yes. It's like, it really is, there has to be more to the story, and there is. You go, so I paid 6 mana for a 3/2 flyer. It's just a vanilla 3/2 flyer.
Well, it's got Undying.
But initially, it's like, oh, what's its cool ability? No, it doesn't have one. It's a 3/2 flyer for 6. Yeah, but it must do something. Yes, it does it all twice, and bigger and better the next time.
So it turns out, I think the flare play for Max worked out well because the rest of Pat's creatures all have Undying, right? The Vengeful Vampire and the Drolf's Messenger. Sort of trading 1 for 2 that way, getting rid of half of a card, and making your opponent's card more powerful isn't necessarily what Max wants to be in.
Talking of powerful, there are some pretty saucy cards in Pat's collection. We'll see. We'll keep an eye on whether certain gold cards might turn up at some point. Maybe.
I don't know if any gold cards in blue and black.
No. Oh, we'll see. So Max, 5 mana to play with. Runs out Sworn Villager. Little Red Riding Hood in all her finery.
A little late right now. I mean, he doesn't need to get the extra mana from it.
Little late Riding Hood, yeah.
Yeah. Vengeful Vampire will get in, continually dropping Max's life total.
So it's a pretty swift clock right now. And Pat running out. Oh, hello.
Ravenous Demon.
Yeah, that's a card that doesn't take many prisoners. Demons are one of those types that are never quite as sexy as a vampire or a dragon or an angel or whatever it is. And, you know, they're kind of... They're really awful, but in a not quite as terrible as some of them way. You know, flavorfully-wise. There's always you always get some value out of a demon, right? If you know, you're gonna get something from them in exchange for eternal damnation.
Well, very luckily for Max here, Pat doesn't have a human, so he can't immediately transform the Ravenous Demon on the next turn and just make short work of Max. But getting in with the 3/2 Vengeful Vampire puts Max on a 3-turn clock. So Max has to come up with something quick. And it looks like he's going to play a Rage Thrower. An interesting thing about Rage Thrower is it leads to these sort of all-in situations where you can attack with all your guys. Either they take the damage or they trade with your creatures and get dealt more damage.
Yep.
Sort of, you know, a lose-lose situation for your opponent. It's one of the cards I really like in Seal for red.
Yeah, it's one of those cards that it's almost like it has a word unblockable somewhere in the text box that you can never quite see. It never comes quite into focus.
Right.
And then in actual gameplay, it's like, well, actually, my 2/2's now unblockable. That's really what's happened, kind of thing.
So I think it's pretty clear here that Pat doesn't have any humans because he's trading away his Ravenous Demon. So
3/2 flyer, Drolf's Messenger that's been there from turn 3.
Get in for another 3 damage, it looks like.
Interestingly, that Scorned Villager was the 6th mana for Rage Thrower.
It is true, so even late in the game, those little mana abilities can have an effect.
Yeah.
And here comes, I see a gold card.
Oh.
Costs 5 mana. Comes into play tapped.
Is that Grimgrin Corpseborn? I fear it may be.
Ooh, and there's a way to untap it and have his opponent lose 2 life.
That's pretty saucy. So, maybe you haven't played with all the mythics, even though it's from Innistrad. So, enters the battlefield tapped, doesn't untap during your own tap step, sacrifice another creature, untap him, put a +1/+1 counter on him, so we may see some dice on the screen sometime pretty soon. And then whenever he attacks, destroy target creature defending player controls, and then put another +1/+1 counter on Grimrin, who, by the way, starts off as a 5.5.5. Can you imagine that he's legendary? Who knew?
Well, Max here is, I think, pretty much almost dead unless he's got a flyer. Even if he's got a solution for Grim, he can use Grim to sacrifice both his Undying creatures, make Max take 2 from Drolf's Messenger, and then turn his Vengeful Vampire into a 4/3.
4/3, yep.
And that'll be 6 damage. So, Max with only 6 mana at his disposal, I think only 1 card in hand. I can't think of something that can take care of both Grim and the Vengeful Vampire.
Yeah. Nasty.
He's got 3 cards, to be fair, but... And I guess, actually, Pat didn't need the Grim for that to occur, because he's got the Homunculus that can sacrifice both of those creatures, one at end of turn, one during his turn.
Sure. So there is Max, busy trying to work out how not to be dead here in game 1 of round 4.
Looks like he'll send in with his Kasich Wolf. I'm not necessarily sure what he's trying to accomplish here with this.
I mean, I guess there's a Rage Thrower issue. It's like, if I can get this dead and that dead, then I can do this much damage to this,
I guess...
I mean, it doesn't even have to be an actual plan. It just has to be something he can represent to give Patrick the opportunity to, not play optimally or not find a way to win.
So one of the problems with the plan that I suggested, right, is by sacrificing those 2 creatures, Pat's going to go ahead and take 4, leaving him at 6. So he's, if Max has some card to destroy a bunch of his creatures, destroy somebody's creatures, then Pat might be...
Blasphemous Act is the correct answer in terms of...
if he had Blasphemous Act, he would have won already.
Sure. Yeah, I know. I mean, just as an example of something that can come off the top and help. So here comes Drolf's Messenger back.
So in response to the Undying trigger, Max is going to go ahead and Brimstone Volley Pat.
And fire some undead.
To burn him out from 10 life.
Wow!
So a game I thought...
Having 3 cards was kind of good.
From a game I thought Pat couldn't lose. He had the win on board. Max Tietze decided to take burn spell after burn spell to take care of Pat Cox.
That's super saucy.
Yeah.
Really.
Mythic Rare defeated by Red Commons.
Which is one of the reasons we love the game.
Yeah.
Because, now admittedly, if you don't have the Mythic Rares or the Red Commons, you feel a little hard done to. You feel that day 2 may be a fair way away. But
I mean, that's one of the complaints about sealed decks. You have to get lucky to open a good sealed deck. I think that most sealed decks, especially in this format, have a really good chance of competing. Very few have a 0 chance of competing. And you saw it right here, right? Mythic Rares were defeated by just normal good Red Commons.
I said to Owen, he said, my deck's terrible. And I said, oh, so just 8-1 this weekend. It's like, no, it's really terrible. I'm like, okay, so you'll have to do really well in draft tomorrow then. Because his definition of terrible is... But it's true, almost every pro will tell you that virtually no deck is unplayable.
It's sort of a myth, I think, of sealed decks.
I think it's... I mean, so many people talk about how important it is to be honest with yourself about where you are in the game. And sealed is where a lot of players begin, because they go to a pre-release. It's just about the first thing they ever do. Certainly, my first tournament was a pre-release. And you go along, and there's so much going on. It's tempted to feel, I'm getting beaten by better decks, which you are, but it turns out that's because you're not playing the good cards in your deck a lot of the time.
Or you're not even making best use of the cards at your disposal. Right?
Oh, for sure.
If you've got a bad situation, if you've got a bad pool, then you have to sort of maybe go all out, hope to get a little lucky, and instead of just making a bad normal deck. And that's something that I think a lot of players miss. A lot of players lament about their luck with regards to sealed deck.
Of course, a lot of players just like to be unlucky because it fits their worldview.
Sure.
Oh, woe is me. Nothing ever goes right for me. There are people who would rather finish second in this event than first. You know that, right? We all have friends, and at home, you know who you are. You know that if you could spend the next 10 years saying, man, I mulliganed to 5 in Game 3 of the final of Grand Prix Nashville, You'd much rather do that than show people the trophy.
Well, I mean,
I don't understand you, by the way. But there are people out there who are like that. I'd always choose to win. That just seems like infinitely more fun.
To win?
Yeah, than to complain about not winning.
For sure.
Here's a better idea. Win.
I mean, I think what's tougher for a lot of players to get over is they sit down against a seasoned pro and they sit down and they think they've already lost.
Oh, now that's harder. That's about psychological pressure. That's about genuine expectation. That's about being overawed. That's self-confidence issues. That happens a lot, for sure. That's something I've talked with Raphael Levy about particularly, because he's someone who is, he's a gentleman at the table, but dearie me, he's hard to play against.
Sure.
So, we're in business with Highborn Ghoul for Patrick Cox. Pat Cox getting away. One down to Max Tietze.
And there you go, Markov Patrician again for Pat Cox.
Now, if Max doesn't do anything on 3, he's actually going to be in a fair bit of bother here, because this is Swift.
Riot Devils.
And this is why Riot Devils is a perfectly acceptable sealed deck card. No one thinks it's exciting. But he's going to go to 16, trade with the Markov Patrician. Much, much better than being at 13 and going, well, at least I don't have to play that Riot Devils.
That's one of the things about the double face cards in Innistrad block, is that if you're behind and your opponent has a double face card and you miss a drop, you're even further behind. You're behind even more than just a turn. Luckily, I guess for Max that didn't happen here, but...
So Stitch's Apprentice arrives for Pat. And Max is back again with an empty board, but has his turn 4 to do something with a hand of 6 cards right now.
One of the things I love about Limited is you get into a board situation like this, your opponent has 2 creatures, you've got none, and you can play a card like Kessig Recluse right here. I guess maybe not Kessig Recluse right here, but a big creature and totally change the game around. Instigator Gang for Max should have a good effect.
Yeah, Max is perhaps someone who a lot of people at home won't know a lot about, but he's a really, really decent player. You look back at his record, top 4 at Grand Prix Columbus in Legacy in 2007, the event won by our own Steve Sadin. Then Pittsburgh last year in Standard, he made the top 4. Quarter-finalist of Baltimore earlier this year, again in Standard. So, this is a man who's used to the top tables. Pat will Ghoul Razor. I will move back.
A nice little interaction between Stitcher's Apprentice and the raised dead effect of Ghoul Razor.
So we might see a lot more of that kind of thing tomorrow once you get into the slightly more structured format of draft.
Right. Here in Sealed, it's sort of luck if you get the right amount of vampires, the right amount of zombies, but in draft, obviously, you've got a lot more control.
Yeah.
So Max, you can't really attack in with his Instigator Gang here, because Pat would double block, and it would just be a 1-for-1 trade, probably trading the Ghoul Razor for the Instigator Gang. So he's got to wait, Instigator Gang is best if you can mass a big army of creatures. So let's see what he's got.
Kessig Wolf. Right now it can't be given first strike, he only has 1 mana spare. 1 and a red to activate.
So, Pat here is sort of edging in a couple points of damage here and there. He's dropped Max already to 14. I think that he sort of needs to keep doing kind of what he's doing. He's got the Highborn Ghoul in hand. That will continue getting damage. It seems to me that, Max didn't play a land drop last turn. He doesn't have his 3rd color. He's a little behind. Pat needs to sort of take advantage of how Max has been sort of slow to the draw here in this game. So Highborn Ghoul for Pat, and he'll pass the turn back.
Yeah. The thing is, although he's 42 creatures ahead, they're kind of relatively unexciting. Now the Highborn Ghoul's back, that's something.
I think you'll see a very exciting creature for Max this turn.
All right.
It's one of Brian Kibler's favorite creatures. I think Brian Kibler's got stacks and stacks. His house is filled with them.
Okay.
Let's see if he casts it or decides to wait. Another nice thing about Pat's board position here is he's got sort of the infinite blocker with Stitcher's Apprentice and a homunculus token.
Sure.
He can keep blocking the Instigator gang, chump blocking.
Interesting. Is that Max just passing the turn?
Yeah, perhaps he wants to have his Instigator gang flip over, transform, and that's exactly what will happen. A very interesting thing to do instead of adding to your board, making more of a board presence. I'm curious why Max did that. I mean, his Instigator gang will pump up his Castle Wolf and create this big first striker. But you want to at least be a little bit more even with the board.
I mean, attacking creatures you control get +1/+0. But so that's only 1 right now.
No, it's 2 now because it's transformed.
Oh, yeah.
It's +3/+0.
Yeah.
+0. It's a 5/5 and it has trample also. So
yeah, it's the base guy is just...
The problem, though, I feel with that play is it's sort of risky. I mean, Pat has 5 mana open. If Pat has any instant, you just wasted your turn. You let Pat time walk you. Especially when you've got a full grip. You've got a full hand. Lots of things to do.
There's 5s of Undeath. Take out the Highball Rule. And, Beguiler of Wills. Yeah, better read that. I can tell you what it says. It says,
take control of all of your creatures.
Over a bit of time. Yes.
Well, I mean, Pat has 4 creatures, so he can start with the Castle Wolf and move on to the Wild Bug Pat.
Yeah. Yes, that's pretty scary. But then we do know that Max has plenty of red commons, as we said in game 1. So
yeah, I mean, if Max draws a swamp here, he can flash back his Fires of Death, take care of the Beguiler of Whales, get in with his 5/5 and his Castle Wolf.
He has 2 right now. 2 swamps in his deck.
Okay. I mean, you could also have one of his other burn spells, or even a Geist Flame, which we didn't see game 1. So the 5/5 will get in. It will become an 8/5 with trample.
Yes. Which is big. But again, and interestingly, we talk about markup attrition as not super exciting. But that 3 life, when you see Pat up at 23, interesting. And we do indeed see Burn taking out the Beguiler.
Brimstone Volley.
Yeah.
So, it might have turned out, it has turned out well for Max to pass the turn there. But there's still, so many things you have to think about when you want to make a play like that.
Yeah.
If you've got a full grip of cards, you've got all these different options. It's very tough, especially with double face cards, to sort of think of the best way. You also have to constantly be careful that you don't play 2 spells during a turn to accidentally retransform your own creature. Which is something that I know I've forgotten.
Happens all the time. And that will be Grimgrim once again. And this is where Brimstone Volley,
might have been good,
just gone away. With Morbid, would have been 5.
Man, Grim is especially good here. I'm not sure if Max has a good answer for it. Max taking a good look at Grim. There's a lot of text on the card. It's somewhat confusing.
Yes. There's a lot going on there. Sack a guy, get a +1/+1 counter on it when it attacks.
Destroy a creature when it attacks, not when it deals damage.
No. So it gets rid of a potential blocker before you even get there.
A nice thing about Grim is if your opponent has a claustrophobia, it doesn't do very much against it.
There you see Pat Cox in the MTG Mom sticker with appropriately themed pink and white dice. I would imagine that was coincidental rather than directly themed. And there's Max, 1 up, defeated Grimgrin in game 1, but now facing Grimgrin again in game 2. And with Pat at a higher life total this time, the burnout option seems rather less profitable or likely.
Well, Max can put Patrick Cox to a decision here. He can attack for 8, let Pat take 8, or Pat can sacrifice one of his creatures and trade Grimgrin for the flipped Wildblood pack.
Uh-huh.
And it looks like Pat is going to go ahead and take 8, dropping him only to 7 life. So, and Max is going to follow that up with the Galvanic Juggernaut.
Well, that's as big as Grimgrin right now, but not for long, one suspects. And there we see.
It's because you have to summon to the one fight. Max again taking a good look at Grimgrin, making sure he completely understands it.
And there's no shame in that, right? I mean, never mind that it's a mythic. Even if it was an uncommon, there are words on the card, so you don't have to memorize it. You can read it. Don't be ashamed. Just read the thing.
It's much better to win a game and look somewhat embarrassed because you read a card than to lose a game because you didn't know what the card did.
Yep.
So Pat looks like he's going to attack with Grimgrin, get his choice to kill the Wildblood pack.
Yep, go away.
Transforms back into an Instigator Gang in the graveyard. And now Max, has to decide whether or not he wants to take 6, maybe 7 here, or double block with his 2 creatures. So Grimgrin's a 6/6 right now. Max has got the 5/5 Galvanic Juggernaut and the 3/1 Hessic Wolf. Might not be bad to trade both your creatures for that.
The trouble is, though, again, you look at all that mana on Pat's side of the table. If he sacrifices both his guys to Grimgrin, that's then 8. So if he can somehow deal with either of those 2, let's face it, Transix more than comfortably does.
Sure.
Then suddenly that's game.
But you have to look at it from Max's position. Grimgrin only gets worse for him. He might want to
make the play to try and get there.
Right. He might want to take a chance. So it looks like he's going to decide to do that, and let's see if Pat has anything. Another thing Max has got to be thinking about is, how has Pat played this game? Has he played it like he might have one of those removal spells in his hand? Is it unlikely? Like, would he have used it earlier if he had those spells? That must be what Max is going through his mind when he's deciding whether to double block. And Pat plays a card off screen, it looks like. Maybe not.
No, still got his 6 mana up. 6 mana is still up.
I think that must have been his pen. Oh, his hand, I see. And,
No, so there's sacrifice number 1. There's sacrifice number 2. Oh, and that takes it to... It was already 7/7, so it takes it to 9/9. So he just gets it out of range. He didn't need the trick. There were 2 counters already.
Okay.
So he just goes 8, 9.
Oh, that's right, because when Grimgrin attacks, he destroys a creature and gets a +1
counter, yeah.
Man, I'm curious then why Max decided to make that play.
Maybe he just wanted to get all but one thing left and then
trade his 2 creatures
and then just has one thing to deal with. Maybe he has
another Hessic Wolf. Interesting that he's tapping none of his green mana to cast that spell. Might signal what could be in Max's hand.
I'd like to attack. I would like to kill your guy. I'd like to put a counter on there. I would like to hit you for 10. I'll go to 4.
I guess that block makes a little bit more sense because it reduces the number of turns that Pat's going to be able to attack with his green mana. Because he needs to sacrifice a creature, be able to untap it to attack, but Ravenous Demon's another creature from Pat, be able to untap again, and I think that's going to make short work of Max.
Now, the only thing is, though, Pat is down to 7, and we saw what happened in the last game.
Yeah.
Surely he can't do it again. He can't have enough burn, surely. He's only got 6 mana. He doesn't have black for flashback on Fires of Undeath.
Does he have a second one of Brimstone Volley or Fires of Undeath in his deck? I'm curious.
No, I mean, he's 4 mana, Huntmaster.
Foil Huntmaster of the Fells.
Oh, well. I made the morning worthwhile.
But it will gain him 2 life and put a wolf token into play, which will save him for another turn.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it won't save his Huntmaster. His Huntmaster is going to die to Grimgrin this turn anyway.
Well, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here comes Vengeful Vampire, which is quite a good candidate for sacrificing.
Yep, because he'll come back for free.
Exactly what you see. We did a little shortcut there. He didn't even put it in the graveyard to bring it back.
And
beating.
Should be enough for Max.
And is. So that's 1-1.
I think an important moment in that game was Max's decision to just pass the turn, let his Instigator Gang flip.
Uh-huh.
I think that without Grimgrin in that game, that decision may have made a lot of sense. But I feel that Max might have been able to tell from Pat's deck he was blue-black. There's some risk that he could have played that Pat could have played an instant at the end of Max's turn, or he could have had Grimgrin again. But maybe he should have thought through some of the other options. He had a Daybreak Ranger in hand, was the card I was talking about.
Right, okay.
That he could have cast. And then waited a turn to let both of his guys flip was another possible play that he could have made. I'm not sure that would have made a difference in this game, but it's definitely something important to know.
See Pat Cox there sideboarding away for game 3. I'd mentioned that Max has been doing very well lately. Well, Pat Cox has a terrific resume too. Grand Prix Oakland 2010, he made the top 8 there. That was an extended. Then Toronto later in the same year made the quarterfinals. That was sealed and draft. That was the beginning of the Scars of Mirrodin. That was the first Scars of Mirrodin Grand Prix, in fact. And then Goten and Goya 2011. Again, draft was the top 8. Euphorexia and Mirrodin Besieged Scars. That was your draft format there. Lost out in the quarterfinals there. And then this year already, runner-up, as I said, to Raphael Levy at Austin. Pat knew he didn't really have much chance in that final. When the way the decks matched up, Levy was a heavy favourite, and so it proved.
He also won a Star City Games Invitational for $10,000 even. He decided not to split in the top 8 and won.
Really?
The full amount, the full $10,000 in the event.
That's pretty gutsy as a call. I mean, I don't know about you, but I mean, obviously $10,000 sounds nice, but I'm not going to lie, $5,000 without worrying about what happens next seems pretty exciting, or But anyway,
I don't know.
But we head for game 3 here in round 4. So the first time we've got a decider for you here on GG's Live in association with Wizards of the Coast at magicthegathering.com. Thanks for being with us. We've got at least 1,027 people who aren't watching GG's Live right now because they're here playing. And it's great to have you with us. Ben and Rich in the booth.
Shuffling up for game 3 between Pat Cox and Max Tietze.
Rashad Miller will be along in a little while. We might let him out of the Grand Prix kit where he lives between events. Somewhere around about round 6 or round 7.
No, I think that's not the Grand Prix kit, that's just his hats. Where he keeps all his hats.
The Grand Prix hat kit.
Yeah, there we go.
Very nice. It's alright, we're talking about you, not to you.
Now you're talking to him.
Oh, that's true. I was then talking to him.
So, very interesting, 2 sort of separate takes on Sealed. The red-green splash black deck and the blue-black deck. Blue-black deck looks like Pat's playing towards his bombs, like Grimgrin, maybe some other cards he has. Max playing a little bit more consistently. He does have Huntmaster of the Fells, obviously, in red and green.
Uh-huh.
But he's also got, really consistent burn in the form of Brimstone Volley and Fires of Undeath. So
now,
sort of 2 different takes.
So, because obviously you get what you're given,
right? And
you pay some money, you take some choice. But from my point of view, I hate feeling powerless. It's one of the reasons I like playing blue, is that even though it's not true, I feel as though any time I have a Dissipate in my hand, I'm notionally in control. And that if someone does something really bad, I can do something about it. And I look at this and I think, I've seen Grimgrin twice. I've beaten it once, if I'm Max. I've beaten it once by getting him low enough. But I don't want to face it a third time. I want to be screaming out of the gates here.
Yeah.
Because, you don't beat that guy very often. And just generally in Sealed, I would much rather get the game done before they start messing around with their giant mythic Rays of Doom that odds are I can't deal with. So.
Well, Max here has a 2-drop in the form of Hamlet Captain. And let's see if Pat has anything to match it. Stitcher's Apprentice.
Stitcher's Apprentice. Incidentally, we've got some Twitter news going on. Louis Scott Vargas, how did he do in his opening round?
He lost his first round. He feels like it might be a real short day for him. Christian Calcano won his first round. Those are results that Twitter has given me. But Daybreak Ranger, wow, on turn 3 for Max. Getting back to the match. It doesn't look like Max has a second color of mana, a red mana for Daybreak Ranger, or even black for his splash. Another thing to notice about Pat's deck is even though he's in blue and black, he doesn't seem to have a lot of too many flyers besides the Vengeful Vampire that we've seen. Usually you see maybe a Moon Heron or 2 in blue black.
Yeah,
something
you want to play Murder of Crows. That's one of the power cards in that.
Something that Daybreak Range can really sink its teeth into.
Yep, and it isn't that he hasn't seen them, it's that basically he hasn't got them.
And Pat Cox does a nice little play here. He uses Stitcher's Apprentice ability to put a Homunculus into play, and then sacrifice the newly created Homunculus to trigger Morbid, and then uses Tragic Slip to take care of Daybreak Ranger on his turn.
Yep. Yeah, Morbid's something you can turn on a lot more often than it appears, just like, because initially you think, oh, but how will I make a creature die that I don't mind dying? It's like I have to kill one of his guys in order to kill one of his guys, and Morbid doesn't really work like that. The Tragic Slip. Drouse Messenger up next. Shiny.
Another further thing to notice is Max misses a land again, and all he can play is a Scornful Villager. Still no red or black mana he's got access to. Although Scornful Villager Scorn Villager, excuse me, is a human.
Scornful is what the villagers think she is.
Is a human to get pumped by Hamlet Captain here. Dropping Pat down to 12.
And that's the good bit of this equation for Max. He has got Pat already to 12. So now we're into Grimgrin territory. The 5th mana has arrived for Pat.
I think the last turn was a little bit of an anomaly for Pat. Because now he can start using his Stitcher's Apprentice to hold back, to sacrifice Drolf's Messenger, and get a 2/2 Homunculus to be able to block one of Max's creatures on the following turn.
So Max, just reminding that Scorn Villager is about to grow some hair in unusual and embarrassing places, like everywhere.
Turn into Moon-Scarred Werewolf.
You're probably too young for American Werewolf in London the first time around, but that's very redolent of that, the kind of Yorkshire moors and the baying howl of the moon. He's looking at me like I'm nuts, ladies and gentlemen.
Are you speaking English?
Oh boy. He's not even heard of an American Werewolf in London.
I know the song.
Sigh.
My mom listened to the oldies channel.
oh, she's gonna love you.
When she drove me to school, so.
Oh.
I listen to that song often.
You're gonna be super popular when you get home. That was the nervous laugh of someone who knows he's doing dishes for the rest of his life. See?
Hopefully not, but...
No. Well, not until you can afford a place of your own. Alright. Moon-Scarred Werewolf, Hamlet Captain, Stitcher's Apprentice, Drouse Messenger. That's the board state. 1-1 here in round 4. Finally, we see some black mana, which is not the correct bonus mana. However, it does open up Skursdag Flair. Scorn Villager, human. Moon-Scarred Werewolf, not. Pity.
Hamlet Captain is a human, though.
Indeed.
And Pat is going to make the play I suggested earlier, where he uses his Stitcher's Apprentice to sacrifice the Drolf's Messenger, create a 2/2 Homunculus, and power up the Drolf's Messenger, all while dealing 2 damage to Max.
Yeah.
So I wonder now how Pat will take advantage of his newly created 2/2 and his now 4/4 Drolf's Messenger.
In we go. Yep. The hand shrug.
I guess I'll take it.
Yeah.
He's going to use Stitcher's Apprentice again to make another 2/2, presumably for the... He's using it so he can cast Makeshift Mauler to remove the Stitcher's Apprentice from his graveyard. Not for any morbid, but
Yep,
for this...
I just have to have something in my graveyard to get the 4/5.
And that 4/5 is pretty important here.
It really is, because actually Pat's deck is it's pretty tricksy, but it's pretty ordinary from what we've seen so far, until you go, well, I'm still alive, and now here's Grim. And honestly, it's a real surprise that Max has survived to get a game 3 out of this. And that makeshift Maul is an issue, because every turn gets Pat nearer to Grimgrin in all 3 games. So at least Max has his mountain.
Yeah, he finally got his red mana. Now he's going to start casting his red spells here at Passive Wolf. Not too impressive, I don't think.
What is nice is that since he's already got the Swamp, he knows that he's got Fires of Undeath lined up. He's 2 mana away from being able to do it and flash it back.
And he can also activate his Flare. Start sacrificing a creature, maybe the Hamlet Captain, to take care of Makeshift Mauler here.
And Max decides it's time to turn sideways. And that's interesting, because when you send 4 guys against 4 guys, well, just generally that favours the defender. Right? I mean, just one of the truisms of Magic is that the guy who gets to block has the edge in combat, just fundamental.
I mean, they get to make the most decisions. They know that they're going to go next. They know that all of their opponent's creatures are tapped. They get to decide, plan their attack for next turn. Acting last is clearly pretty important.
Of course, Fires of Undeath means 9. Now that the Moonscarred Werewolf has turned off School Villager, he's no longer 2 away. He's back to being 3 away from Fires of Undeath with Flashback.
So I think what Max is going to do here is line up a block, and then after blockers, sacrifice his Hamlet Captain to take care of probably Makeshift Mauler. To prevent a lot of damage. I mean, Max at only 11 life, he's got to be really careful about what he does. I wonder what will happen. Maybe Pat will play Grimgrin again. Just drop that guy down after combat.
That looks like it might be a Ranger's Guile in Max's hand.
I believe there is one in his hand. I'm curious though where he might use it.
Yeah.
Or if he'll use it.
I think that's what's sitting there as a possibility.
I'm pretty positive it is. I saw when it went to a background shot. He also has a Fires of Undeath.
So he's going to use it proactively, which is interesting because it's really, one would think, a response to a black removal spell.
I mean, giving it hexproof is really important.
Sure.
And then he'll use the Flare to get rid of the Makeshift Mauler by sacrificing the Hamlet Captain. So
that went pretty well for Max, all didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he protected himself. He only got dealt 2 damage from the 1 Homunculus token.
And Fat Mauler went away.
Yeah, was able to take out 2 of his creatures. 2 of Pat's creatures. But now he has to wait and see what Pat has post-combat. 6 mana. Uh-oh.
The well-known Silent Departure for 1, also known as Silent Departure for 5, moments later.
Yep. bouncing both his creatures and triggering the werewolf's ability to transform back into the Scorned Villager.
Yeah.
See, I actually really like Silent Parcher a lot. It allows you to play this more tempo game. I mean, look at here. What happened here, Max was able to take out 2 of Pat's creatures, and Pat was able to get in for 2, but now Max has to spend his turn rebuilding his board, and Max, has all his mana available again. He's, again, in the driver's seat.
Yeah, Pat.
Yeah, sorry, Pat is, again, in the driver's seat.
So, looks like Max is going to send in
for just 1.
And then 3 mana, Kessel Wolf, 2 mana, Skursnak Flayer, off we go again. Pat sends his team once more.
The blocks here are not good for Max. Right, the best he can do is trade the Kessig Wolf for the Homunculus token. Or...
Yeah, for the Messenger.
The Messenger's a...
4-3.
4-3, yes, yeah.
So, they go away. 1 point comes off Max's total. The Skursnak Flare will go back live, and interestingly, currently, Scorned Villager is back to being human.
Yep.
So, Stitch Drake. So, it makes your Mauler has 1 more use for that. Max is down to 7, so it would surprise me if Scorned Villager is about to get eaten by Skursnak Flare to send the Stitch Drake back.
I mean, he needs an answer to that flyer, right?
Yeah.
He has no flyers of his own, and the 4 toughness is really tough to deal with.
Yeah.
You have to use sort of a premium removal spell usually to get rid of it, something like a Morbid Brimstone Volley or a Morbid Tragic Slip, something like that.
So his Fires of Undeath, and now Festerhide Boar with Morbid, 5/5 Trample, it's coming back the way of Max.
Yeah.
That Silent Departure was really good, but since then Max has come roaring back, and now although he's 11-7 down, or 7-11 down if we're doing product placement, Cox attacks for 3, puts Max to 4. Does he have a way to finish it?
Grave Purge to put Ralph's Messenger back.
Wow!
Dropping Max to 2.
2. And now it's like, is there a, if he gets to untap with it and then get in the way?
Yeah.
Super good.
Super
Wow.
good magic.
So, and Max has Fires of Undeath in the graveyard, which he can flash back. So that's 2. He's got Festerhide Boar, that's 5. 1 from Scorned Villager, 6. 1 from the player, 7. 2 from the 5. That's only 9. That's not enough.
He needs to hold back his Scorned Villager here so he can block Ralph's Messenger and then use the Flare to get rid of Stitch Drake. I guess he can do the same thing with the Flare, but he needs to hold one of his 1/1 back so he can block Messenger without killing it. Because if it were to come back and play thanks to Undying, it would take out Max.
Oh, Brimstone! Volley for the win!
Wow. And Max takes it down.
Oh, boy!
Thanks to the strength of his burn spells.
That was really good fun. Well done, Max. Yeah, and there you go. That was fun going, yes, let's have a proper handshake over that, because that was a good game. So we're going to get Max into come and chat.